Well, hello, and welcome to another Advanced Warfare Web replay commentary of my Discord Cap 11 tournament. This is round 2 in Flower Trading Association, and here I'm facing against Mordio, who at the time I think it was 1250, something like that on rating, and myself, I haven't played that much Global League lately, so I'm still around the 1170s, more or less. So, this being said, let's talk a bit about the map just very quickly, okay? We can see a com tower that can be a bit contested, but this is usually the com tower that I will be able to get, and the opponent is. It's a base light map, so it's one base plus airport, and as you can see, this is pretty much a bit of a HQ race or base lock map, right? Artillery is very strong on this map. You have a lot of play around these mountains right here. You have artillery positioning, it's very easy to lock here because you can just put an infantry or a unit over here. And overall, yeah, so artillery is very strong on this map, and you will see that I built a lot, like a lot of artillery. But my strong side is supposed to be the right side, just because I have this airport over here and reinforcements for here. Whoops, I always do this issue. And reinforcements from here, this base over here, will take too long. The middle, it's a bit contested in the sense of it's going to be even, but with the black boat, you can prevent enemy rotations. So whoever gets the enemy black boat first, it's going to have easier rotations through the middle, right? This being said, I think we have covered pretty much the way I see the map, and we can go straight into it because this game, it's a banger, like some people say, you know? So, let's begin. First rounds are pretty easy, some infantries, and in my case, I obviously go for the capture chain over here, you know, nothing very special. He decides to go against the capture chain and decides to push. This is also a viable opening, but in this case this is just faster income, right? So this is why I choose, and I also choose to go for the airport because these cities I'm going to be able to get them anyways. These ones maybe not as easily, but you have to keep in mind that this city, in theory, it's always going to be mine because I can just put an artillery here, and there is nothing you can do to prevent me from taking this city, right? So far everything goes pretty standard. Let's move quickly through the initial turns. Move the infantry here to get this cap. Another possible option would be, or get this cap, you know. Another possible option would be to begin sending it this way, but I chose to go for the middle properties sooner. This is just a small thing I like to do. The infantry, instead of moving it here to cap this city, I move it here so the opponent doesn't know which one of the two I'm going to go for. This is something very minor, but I think it's there is no harm on doing it, right? And maybe it can throw sometimes your opponent off. Maybe your opponent doesn't know which city you want to go for and they want to mirror you. This is not the case, but in those cases I think going for this kind of ambiguous moves is very good. Also, yeah, you could even try to trick it by moving it into this mountain, but with here you are like, oh, is he also going to go for the com tower, for example? Like, just try to throw out your opponents, right? Don't try to telegraph everything very easily. So far, this is only infantry builds, as we can see. I decided to go for this one anyways, now I go for this one. I have 6,000... No, I have enough money, and I went for a tank build on this side over here because I want to start pressuring this side already, right? I was looking at my income, not at my funds for some reason. But yeah, this is my first tank, and my opponent has to choose where to build one of his vehicles now. And if I recall correctly, he did it on the middle to match my tank. This is not bad, right? But I would have preferred to try to go for a tank on this side over here, personally. In my case, building a tank on this side means that you are going eventually, right? If he tries to make the right side his strong side, I'm going to have picopters eventually, although the airport is actually pretty bad on this map because a battlecopter is going to take 3 turns to get to the front line. So that's a lot. of time wasted. Therefore, it's not your opponent has. You can build a big copter, and you will see this in the future. And your opponent can choose to not build an anti-air on that turn, and they instead can build it on the next turn because the big copter takes so long to get into position. Okay. I would have preferred to do this because eventually, if the right side is the strong side for both of us, I'm just going to win because I have the battle copters ready. You know. Also, some rotations from here, from my middle to the right side are viable, but they are not as easily done from this base over here. So that's something to take into account. I move my tank to the front, you know, try to threaten sitting into this property right here, which is, I believe, what I'm going to do. And then a classic double infantry. One thing that you will be noticing, and this is something that I noticed very late, my opponent sent 2 infantries to this side of the map, to the south, or the north in this case, his HQ side. In my case I only have 1 right now, so he's getting these properties way before I get mine. He's getting this kind of property that it was going to be his either way, but now they are going to take it by themselves, you know. And he begins the com tower capture. I do not like this. This actually, okay, so as a thing, com towers are useful, and I think so, but the important thing is getting a com tower before engagements are happening. That's what he's doing right now, but he's forgoing like some caps over here, and I think that capping this com tower 1 turn after would have been completely fine. So I think maybe there was a bit of a com tower rush over here. You will see. I take my time to get this com tower because it's in like 2 turns of my base, you know, 3, 4, 5. Another funny thing is that your artillery can be in position to defend this in 1 single turn, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put an artillery here, 1, 2, 3. You have control of the com tower. They cannot sit any units on the com tower. Okay, so in theory, even if the com tower might look a bit contested, in reality you cannot contest it. You know, the opponent is not going to be able to capture it in 1 turn. Artillery is going to be ready to defend it. It's just not going to work. Okay, so yeah, normal movements. Tank goes there. You know, builds another tank, and now I have to choose what to do. And I believe that instead of parking my tank over here, I believe I chose to park it on the com tower. Let's see if I remember correctly. No. Oh, yeah. Instead, I decided to move it back to the forest because my opponent is going to have a com tower. So it's going to be a com tower versus no com tower hit, and I think he will have come up on top. So that's pretty much why. Again, I do this thing I mentioned before. I try to be a bit ambiguous, like am I going for the com tower or I am going for this. On top of that, it's outside of the tank range, so that's great. And here we can notice how I begin doing some black boat blocks. As you can see, I move my black boat here, so this infantry cannot take damage from this one over here, because my plan is I can move the infantry over here, because it seems like now they have 2 tanks on the right side of the map, they have 0 on the left side, but I'm having 1 tank on the left side of the map anyways. So at this point I'm like, oh, I may need some extra units, especially because I'm going to build an artillery on the right. And why do I do this? I'm trying to maximize my funds, you know? So this is something Jokas has told me a lot, and it's you need to try to have this vehicle advantage. Vehicle advantage is super strong, especially in 2 base maps, okay? Why? Because in 3 base maps, there are more possible builds you can do to try to fit as many vehicles as possible, but that's not as easy on 2 base maps. So in 2 base maps, generally, the way to get vehicle advantage is by using your airports. So for example, now, I'm just squeezing this extra 1000 funds on this artillery, right? Because I could have saved for a tank. And this is good, because now suddenly I have 3 vehicles to his 2. They sit the tank on the base. That's kinda standard. They threaten a capture on the comm tower with the infantry and keep pushing. Apparently I skipped a lot of their turns, but it's fine because most of them were infantry movements. Okay, so my turn, what do I do? Well, I go by caps, always begin with the caps, as I mentioned, and I begin this that I mentioned before, you know. I just push the tank away from the comm tower and just put these 2 infantries over here. So this is, and I put another artillery over here, and this is actually a bit of a trap, you know, because these infantry may seem a bit free, and we are going to see now, but in reality they are not free at all, because if one of these infantry get attacked, I can just attack with the tank. Okay, let's say this tank right here attacks from this plane right here, you know, and has tank coverage or something. I can just attack with my tank, cover with my artillery, and they are not going to be able to retaliate. So it's not a free hit. They take the hit over here, you know, this is what I mentioned, okay? All I have to do is I move this infantry back, I move my tank over here, take a hit on this tank right here, so I get tank first strike, and then I put my artillery on this city over here. And kaboom, I get a free tank hit and they cannot hit it back because then my artillery is going to finish the job. But then they do something even worse than attacking here, this infantry, right? They just put it straight on range of my artillery, and at this time I got a message like, ah man, I cannot believe I put my tank on range of the artillery, whatever, and I'm like, and I was like, well, yes you did, but that wasn't the only mistake you made. This was already a free hit on a tank, so the only difference is that it went from a free hit to a free tank, which is a pretty big difference, especially playing a Sandy, but still. And we can see how he's pushing really hard on these properties right here. Again, I'm not being as fast as he is because I took more time with my bike's properties, but it is what it is, right? Like at this point I may be losing a bit of some of my properties over here. Oh, also, early battlecopter, infantry, 4,000 of gold floating, or buckaroos, or whatever you call it. Nah, man, don't do this. Just build a double tank, build a... I think he could have built let me check. Yeah, like you can build like double tank is way better build, because now what happens? He builds again a single vehicle, one single vehicle. I'm just spamming artilleries here, as you can see. Like I have three artilleries on day 8. You know, I keep trying to push this vehicle number, and now I get the free hit. You know, and problem solved. And now I begin this cap, move the tank over here to block these caps. Why? Because this battlecopter is going to take so long to defend these caps that it's not going to be possible, right? Begin moving my artillery. My goal right now is to move my artillery to the middle. Why? Because if I move my artillery over here to this position in the next turn, for example, I can begin threatening this city. I can block the black boat. I can stop them from parking units in this city. It's a pretty strong position. And after, and another thing to notice is they began moving this tank to the left, because they realized like, hey, wait a moment, he has vehicles over there and I don't have any. And yeah, so here we can also see what I mentioned. I have moved the artillery here. Now the tank has to leave. It doesn't have that many good positions to leave even, because of all the forest on this area of the map. So it's their turn, and they begin moving the battlecopter, getting some captures. But notice how much of an advantage Mordio has over me on these corners, right? The tank is moved here, classic. It's just slow pushing, you know, retiring. Good retirement. This is what I mentioned. You don't move it here, you move it here. You keep threatening 2 caps. It's covered by the battlecopter, you know. Pretty standard stuff. another big mistake, another battlecopter. Notice how I didn't even build an anti-air, because this battlecopter is going to become a problem next turn. So I can just build an anti-air fine in this turn, and he builds another battlecopter. And I think the reason why they build another battlecopter on this turn is because, like, hey, he didn't build any anti-air, so I'm going to go for another battlecopter. But that's not true, because it takes 2 turns, right? So I can still build one anti-air now, and I will be completely fine. Like, completely fine. So this is something that also Jokas told me, you know, and it's like, battlecopters are especially strong when you have ground support. He has no ground support over here. He has 1 tank. If I have a tank and 2 artilleries on the left side and an anti-air, I can just suicide my tank into his tank, and then my anti-air is free to kill every single battlecopter. You know? So that's another mistake. And the black boat, it's moved here for I'm not entirely sure why, to be fair, the black boat was moved there. Probably to try to do a boost or something on the next turn, or a block here. I'm not entirely sure. But the truth is that it doesn't matter, because I begin capping. I get a first strike on the tank. Why? Because... What? Why? What? The movement is... Okay, the movement of this tank is a bit weird. I begin the count tower cap, I put an infantry there, and suddenly I threaten this tank with 2 artilleries, and this was a free first strike. Okay, this doesn't take into account. And this suddenly is a free first strike. And that's it, pretty simple. I move my 3 HP infantry over here just to make sure, you know, that I can get it into range of stopping this cap in a suicide if necessary. This infantry begins capping, and I keep moving my tanks, and suddenly, you have a tank and a 5 HP tank versus almost 2 full HP tanks and 2 artilleries. I do this move over here, and I trap the black boat. In 2 turns, this black boat is completely gone. And now, all of the vehicles that Mordio was putting to try to delay this com tower cap are completely gone, because I'm going to get this com tower anyways, right? Because look at all the artillery around here. So at this point, this is looking pretty bad. I moved my tank over here, mostly because I could cover the most important places, and maybe, you know, just maybe I can do some kind of push on the right side. And I just move a bit my artillery, and I build the anti-air. Why? Because they are going to move the battlecopter, I'm going to move the anti-air, and problem solved. And another artillery. Why? Because, well, turns out I just had exact 6,000. And I want this vehicle advantage. So suddenly we have the same unit count, which is something we so last video we covered the importance of having a unit count advantage, and that unit count advantage was obtained by infantry, right? In this case, I don't have a unit count advantage, but my opponent has 5 vehicles, and I have 9 vehicles. Like, I have almost twice as many vehicles as my opponent does. Okay? How are you? You can have all the infantry you want over here, all the infantry you want over here. Like, look at how strong my position feels right now, because I have this vehicle advantage. Why? Because I've been maximizing the amount of money I was spending every single turn on vehicles. Okay? That's very important. These 2 battlecopters are going to do absolutely nothing. There is a bit of, I think these are called man's infantries. Suicide, try to stop the cap. I'm completely fine with this. This is 2 free infantries I'm going to get. And my opponent keeps pushing hard on the left side of the map. I'm going to lose these properties. It is what it is, right? At this point, even if I'm going to be behind on income, it's going to be fine for me. But one thing that I need to consider is how I'm 2,000 behind on income, and my opponent is already capping 3 different cities. Okay, these 3 cities right here. That's not good. Okay, it doesn't matter how many vehicles I have if I'm in a very big income disadvantage. So let's see what I do. Finally my opponent decides, you know, like, hey, finally my opponent realizes like, hey, I need vehicles now, and decides to buy 2 vehicles again, you know, and sends a tank for repair, which makes sense. So how am I going to solve this income disadvantage issue? Well, first of all, I'm going to get the free money, and I'm going to begin some caps, and I just put the artillery there and attack with the tank. This artillery is not going to be hit. This tank is not going to be hit because I have the artillery backup, and all I have to do is I begin moving my units slowly, prepare something just to prevent in case my opponent wanted to, you know, kill this infantry, begin a cap, you know, I cannot allow myself. And I move the anti-air here especially to be able to hit the battlecopter if he attacks from the mountain. This 1 HP infantry at this point, I just move it to the right with the intention of shielding this artillery, because it's not going to do anything. And I begin the com tower cap again. It's fine if he wants to, like, I don't mind having the delayed com tower. With the vehicle advantage that I have, I don't really need this 10% firepower at this point. And I go double tank. So suddenly, again, big vehicle advantage in my case. And my opponent is capping and takes a shot at my 2 HP and my infantry, because he wants to free this black bolt, I think. But the black bolt is gone. Let's be honest. And this artillery is putting in work, blocking these 2 cities. It's doing its job. And yeah, the opponent goes to kill this infantry over here, but it survives. And the battlecopters keep pushing. And like it or not, even if my position on the right side is very strong, my position on the left side is weaker than I would like. And here, this is a big turn for him, because he builds 3 units, right? 2 tanks, 1 battlecopter. Now the amount of battlecopters is getting pretty big. I still have 0, okay? So that's something that I have to be careful with. So I begin my caps, and I'm like, wait, I need to be careful with a possible HQ rush, you know? So I just move my infantries back. And obviously, this is a mistake. I moved my battlecopter, my anti-air here, because I thought it was going to be a safe move. But the truth is that a tank hit plus 2 battlecopters is going to destroy this anti-air. But at least I get the black boat, and now I can rotate stuff into different areas of the map. And I just move the black boat over here to be able to wall off this battlecopter, right? Why? Because now if this battlecopter wants to go to the right, it needs to take this path, which is not going to happen, right? So this means that suddenly this battlecopter is completely cut off the right side of the map, so I can do a strong push on the right side, like this one. And as we can see, we have quite a big wall over here, you know, 3 artilleries that are just going to counter-attack pretty much everything. Look at these tanks, they cannot attack because he was rotating very hard towards his HQ. So all I have to do is kind of a front switch, and suddenly look how close these artilleries are to base locking, right? So yeah, I build another anti-air just in case, because I'm like, oh, too many battlecopters over here, right? And here is where I lose my battlecopter, as I mentioned, and I cannot even hit this battlecopter, which is a bit tragic, you know. But my opponent decides to go ham on the right side, kills a tank and damages an artillery, and pushes more on the left side, moves this artillery over here, which left me very confused. I think they wanted to move it either to the middle or rotate it to the right, and there is a push on with all these units. This is starting to get a bit scary, as you can notice, right? Another battlecopter. There are so many battlecopters 1, 2, 3, 4 battlecopters on the map right now, and I have one single anti-air. At this point, I was thinking like, should I save for a fighter? Is a fighter a good buy right now? Okay, and notice how I'm still on an income deficit. That's pretty bad. So let's see how I come back. First thing that I do, steal this property over here. Nice. Income deficit has been denied so far because they are capturing this city over here. You know, and I'm losing this city over here. So, are we really covering the income deficit? You know, move this infantry over here to prevent a hit from the tank on this artillery, and I move my units to my HQ. Take the shots over this area. Why? Because, well, this tank cannot retaliate, and my battlecopter is going to move forward. So I begin moving this artillery to the south because I'm like, I need some vehicle support on my HQ side, you know. Repair this infantry. I have moved the 3 HP infantry here. I put this artillery over here to punish in case they want to attack through this area. Also, the reason behind this 3 HP infantry, it's again blocking the battlecopter along with this black bolt. And I begin taking some shots over here. So suddenly 2 vehicles have been lost. Like, this trade was not good. 2 vehicles have been lost. But now, well, now he has this the scope ready, right? And there are a lot of infantries here that would totally like to use this scope, right? So I need to be very careful. And on top of that, I need to build a tank over here in this area and an anti-air over here, just because I cannot keep walling off these 2 battlecopters eternally, right? Like, this battlecopter can now move over here. For example, this battlecopter can begin moving on over here, and I need some kind of support. And I also build a battlecopter because I have the funds for it, pretty much. So let's see what they do. They steal my city over there. So suddenly I'm again at a 3000 deficit, and hyper upgrade is used. The super CO power, let's see what happens. Begins capping a city. Yeah, begins capping a city. Ah, sorry. I'm going to go back. Now I remember. Okay, there were some captures that I could have stopped, right? I could have a hit here to prevent this capture, and I could have hit here to prevent this capture over here, right? Why did I not do it? Because he was going to have hyper upgrade the next turn, and he will have, and I wouldn't have been able to stop the captures on the first place. So that's something that I've never thought about it, and I cannot believe I didn't realize, like, hey, when Andy has super CO power, you know, he's kind of like Sammy. He can just capture like cities with 5 HP on his infantry. It's really strong. I didn't even realize that. Okay, so that's something that I definitely learned on this game, and you can see how the tank is pushing here. Like, oh boy, this is starting to look very scary. The battlecopters are rotating to the right. I'm beginning to lose a bit of my tank presence over this area. The left side is not looking very strong on my part. And another battlecopter, man! This guy just doesn't like tanks. He just likes battlecopters. He has 5 battlecopters on the battlefield at this point. 5 battlecopters. At this point, I kept thinking, like, do I build a fighter? Like, because a fighter, like, he has no anti-air. I can build a fighter. If I build a fighter, he's fucked. So, and 2 more tanks every time. Why? Because he reads, like, he has so much income advantage on me. So, I was mentioning some vehicle advantage. Okay, he has right now 12 vehicles. Well, I have 13, but that's not enough. Right? The last few turns, because of this income advantage, he's been like constantly creating vehicle. So, let's see how I come back from this situation. I do these engagements over here, and these engagements may look a bit weird, because they kind of are, you know? But the reason I chose to do this was because threatening an HQ cap without infantry, or better yet, without healthy infantry or without infantry, it's just not possible. Just not possible, right? So I'm like, okay, I take these trades, I scope after the trades, and suddenly, at the very least, you know, well, I will have healthy infantry and he won't. And I take these trades, okay? But the reason why I use the scope here, it's not for these trades, okay? The reason why I use the scope, and this is something that DQ says in a lot of his videos, is every power and CO power needs a goal in mind, right? And this CO power doesn't give me especially like a lot of good engagements. They are not the reason why I chose to take this fight. The reason why I chose to take this fight was I wanted the +1 movement, okay? Look, now that I have the +1 movement, okay, I can do certain things that I previously couldn't do. Like, for example, well, I move an artillery there, I move an artillery there, I begin a couple of caps, you know, but the important thing here is that, wait a moment, double artillery on base range, choke point covered by another artillery, this is a base lock. I completely locked this base already. This is a complete base lock. This was the intention behind this super CO power for me. Getting these artilleries into range of the base. And at this point, I mentioned, like, he has 4 battlecopters because I just shot one down, but this battlecopter is going to get very damaged, you know, so another anti-air. I need to keep spamming anti-air, and the reason why I build a battlecopter here is because I need to send this battlecopter to my HQ, because now that I have the base lock, my opponent is 100% going to go for the base race, for the HQ race, and I need to be the one that comes out on top, right? So here we can see how my opponent in fact does go and is trying to lock my anti-air and everything. This was such a blunder. I can't believe I gave a free hit on my artillery. I can't believe it, because that was such a huge mistake. This was such a crucial mistake. And it gets worse, to be fair. It gets worse, because at least I'm able to put this tank onto the HQ, you know, to buy some turns. But instead they choose to do this, so this tank is completely gone because of battlecopter plus tank. This tank is gone, battlecopter plus kills the artillery, and suddenly his infantry is in range of my HQ because I didn't put the tank on the HQ for some reason. That was the move, tank in HQ. It was so easy for me, you know. Infantry kills infantry, tank goes to HQ. Come on, this is a super simple play that I should have been able to spot, but I don't know. I was thinking that I think I was believing that my opponent was going to over-respect this anti-air, but obviously it wasn't the case. And another mistake is that only an infantry is built here, which is very weird, you know, because only having an infantry here pretty much means that, well, I can begin doing other things. So now all I have to do is I put this one tank on top of the base, and now there is nothing that can come out of the base, right? So what do I do with the rest of my units? Well, I'm just rotating them to my HQ, right? They have lost this base over here, right? Because there is no way of coming back. I have 2 artillery support, I have an infantry that is going to begin the cap next turn, so all of this means that I can just move my troops to my HQ, because there is no black bolt this time to prevent rotations or anything, and I need these extra reinforcements on this area. So I'm just like moving. I'm like, I'm going to send everything that I have, because what I was seeing is that I had a very strong army on the right side, but this very strong army was composed of artilleries, and 2 of them were forced to base lock. So in reality, I'm not going to win an HQ race. So my win condition is I capture this base over here and send all the troops that I can to the right. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to organize some defenses the way I can, and I choose to build a medium tank. Why? Because I know he's going to be sending tanks, because tanks are fast, you know? And I have 3 anti-airs over here at this point. So I was like, well, I think that with 3 anti-airs, you know, and 2 battlecopters that are coming, the battlecopter fight is kind of decided, so what I need is something to prevent those tanks from killing my anti-air. We will see what happens now. So, is the attack that I called, you know, like, even better. You can just sit your own tank on top of the HQ and kill my tank. And suddenly there is a full HP infantry. Close to the HQ. So what do I do? Because the opponent is pushing, it's playing defensive on the right side, you know, like normal, it's threatening this artillery by hitting from here, but all the troops are moving, and this is starting to get really scary. And he builds a bomber, he builds a freaking bomber, man. At this point I'm like, oh shit, man, anti-airs are not going to cut it. I need a fighter. But I had been saving for a fighter, you know? I knew I was going to probably have to pay some repairs on this infantry right here, etc. And I was kind of scared that I was going to get like a suicide attack on some of my properties, on some of my property units. So I left some extra money just in case to be able to build a fighter. But one thing that you may have noticed is that this anti-air can kill 2 battlecopters. But this infantry is going to begin capping the HQ in 1 turn. So I'm forced. First thing I do on the turn, I just build the freaking fighter. I repair this tank to full health and move the medium tank over here. But I'm forced to kill this infantry. I'm 100% forced to kill this infantry, and this means I'm going to lose my anti-air because the tank and the battlecopters are just in range. So this is tragic. So how do I try to save this fight? Okay, I know this tank has to hit this battlecopter, which means this anti-air, which means that all the units this tank is covering are not really being covered, you know. And I just go for a Hail Mary, like I need to kill this 1 HP infantry, you know, buy some turns. I put the battlecopter in range of my fighter, just so it's not killed, but it has some ground support. I don't have an anti-air right now, and I won't have one soon, so I need to be very careful with my battlecopters. I need to push very slowly with them, because if I lose my battlecopters, if he gets the first strike, I'm not going to be able to... I'm dead, because I don't have any answers for his big copters, you know? Just a normal wall over here, you know? I begin moving, now at this point, I begin, again. There is nothing that can attack this infantry anymore, right? So now it's when I begin moving absolutely everything towards my HQ. And I can start taking these engagements too. Why? Well, because this tank, as I mentioned, has to attack this anti-air. So all of this is a free trade for me. You know, and I keep moving units. Like, I know that I can put this anti-air in range of this tank over here, because he's not going to be able to attack with it, because it has to attack with this one. So then again, Mordio's turn. Let's see how it plays out. Bam, my anti-air is gone, my tank is gone. You know, this is looking real bad for me. This anti-air is gone, I knew it was going to happen. The 4 HP artillery is pushing, the bomber is pushing, the tank is pushing. He blocks, he's blocking with the battlecopters, he keeps moving these tanks. He's like, oh shit, he moves absolutely everything from this side of the map. Maybe I can do something here, but the truth is that he builds a fighter! He builds a fighter, and here I was like, shit! here I was like, ah, fuck. He built a fighter because an anti-air is too slow. An anti-air takes too long to get here, but a fighter it's only 2 turns, right? A fighter gets there in 2 turns, so I was like, shit, man. One of the things that I wanted to do, actually, I didn't even mention it before, but I think, let me go back a bit. No, it wasn't this turn, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, it wasn't this turn. So, yeah, at this point, I see the fighter and I'm like, shit, this is a horrible situation for me, right? So, I'm just playing as defensive as I can. I only need to prevent him from taking my cities. I'm ahead in gold now, in income now. Why? Because, well, I switched this base, I finally got this city, and I'm going to begin cutting this city too, you know? So, slowly but surely, at least, I'm beginning to win in income, you know? It has to be now or nothing. Now or nothing is the idea. And look, this infantry caps HQ. If he gets... What happens if he gets a scope? Whoops, what happened? If he gets scope, this infantry can begin capping next turn. This infantry is very, very dangerous, okay? So, I'm playing it safe. I put it here. I cover my anti-air as good as I can. This anti-air needs to survive, okay? This anti-air has to survive. I begin a cap here. I cover the cap with my artillery. You know, I move the fighter over here. What do I build? A neo-tank! A goddamn neo-tank! I need firepower. Why do I build the neo-tank? Well, the truth is that I spent probably 4 hours on the move planner checking possible solutions, right? And one thing my opponent can do in this situation, okay, it's the following. This battlecopter attacks from here, suicides the battlecopter. This battlecopter attacks from here, suicides the battlecopter, and I can't remember the rest. I'm going to pop now an image of how it should have looked. Oh shit, can I do that? Yeah, I think I have the replay file somewhere, so otherwise I wouldn't have this, right? But there was this position that would have been possible for him to get the super CO power, begin a cap, and set up an incredible wall around the HQ. And after like checking, I was like, shit, I need another wall break, and this other wall break was this neo tank over here. So instead, he chooses to take this fight over here, hits this tank, attacks this infantry, which is fine, you know, I don't care at this point. Kills this battlecopter, you know, attacks this anti-air. This is a kind of a suicide move at this point, and moves the rest of his units. Okay, so what happens on my turn? I begin attacking here, I get my super CO power hyper upgrade, and suddenly, well, I trap this tank, which is it's not going to change anything, but suddenly boom, 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 boom. And funnily enough, okay, I have 2 choices to make here. I could have gone for this bomber right here, but the problem is this bomber was a roll, okay? There was like it was I think a 60% chance of one-shotting the bomber. So instead I'm like, hey, what did I mention before? If there are no infantries, it doesn't matter if he has an army around my HQ, right? So all I have to do is kill this infantry, kill this infantry, kill this infantry. Okay, well, and this infantry is dead, we are going to see it. But why do I put this artillery over here? Well, this artillery it's put here so this recon can't actually block this cap, stop this capture. And I just build a mech here in case, like, yeah, stop this capture, man. I dare you. Come and stop this capture, you know? So at this point, the game is pretty much over. He's losing on income. He has no army left. His base locked. and he's going to lose another 2 cities next turn. So he uses Hyper Upgrade, does a couple of attacks, and resigns. And this match was really tense, and this turn right here was the key. Okay, he had a great possible turn that I'm not even sure if I would have been able to prevent a capture. Maybe there was a line because I couldn't see any single move. I couldn't see obviously every single move, right? But I think there was quite a bit of a chance that he could have won with a good counter attack. So if someone wants to take on the challenge, I will post a link to the replay to download the replay on the description. And if someone finds a game-winning move for green in this turn, I will be very interested, because at this point I was pretty confident that it wasn't going to be a very obvious one, but it was possible that I have missed something, because there was an easy way for him to charge his Super CO power, because 2 Battlecopter sacks into this anti-air, followed by a tank hit here and a tank hit there, for example, was enough, but it was even less, because he's only needing 24,000. So 24,000 to Battlecopters that get sacked is 18,000 plus kills the pretty much, I know it doesn't kill the anti-air, but that's like 20,000 total damage with only 2 Battlecopters. So suddenly he only needs a 4,000 trade, and the 4,000 trade is something like this tank attacking this tank. So suddenly he has Super CO charge, Super CO power, and he can do stuff with all the units to block. This one infantry that will have gotten boosted into the HQ. So sorry if I went too fast at the end regarding the way he could have charged the Super CO power, but I'm going to put a picture so it's easier for you to see. So this being said, thank you very much for watching. I think I personally felt way more comfortable doing this video because, last time I was punching down someone, it was a player that there was a big of a difference in rating. This time I felt more comfortable recording the video. Honestly, this game is amazing. This match was amazing, so and I also lost 1 or 2 years of my life playing it. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much for watching.